AI is incredible. It can teach you how to fry an egg and even write a poem, pirate style. Yarr! But it knows nothing about your work. Slackbot is different. It doesn't just know the facts. It knows your schedule. It can turn a brainstorm into a brief. And it doesn't need to be taught. Because Slackbot isn't just another AI. It's AI that knows your work as well as you do. Visit slack.com/meet Slackbot to learn more.
You can't reason with the sun. Trust us, we've tried. This summer, it's time to put that angry ball of fire on mute. Columbia's OmniShade technology is engineered to protect you from the sun's harsh rays that can burn and damage your skin. The sun is relentless, but so is our gear. Level up your summer at Columbia.com to spend more time outside and less time slathering on aloe lotion. You're welcome. Columbia, engineered for whatever.
In a world where overspending, debt, and keeping up with the Joneses rules us all, where the voices from the merchants, restaurants, and credit companies lord over the common man. Out of the darkness, like a beacon of hope, comes a new voice, a voice that's rich and creamy, like your favorite butter, and delicious, like cheeseburger pizza on your diet cheat day. It's The Stacking Benjamin Show.
Live from Joe's mom's basement, it's The Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and man, am I feeling tired today. I guess it was that long night of budgeting I had. I mean, you know how it goes. You know you should go to sleep, but you just want to keep massaging that data deep into the night. Speaking of tired today, to help you go further while doing less, we welcome the author of I'm So Effing Tired, Dr. Amy Shah. In our headlines, we'll dive into recent statistics about millennials and their money with Dr. Brooke Struck from the Decision Lab. Not a millennial? I think a lot of this will apply to you too. We'll throw out the Haven Lifeline to Mike from our basement Facebook group, asking if there's any reason to not do an HSA. Then I think I'll open the books for some budget-related trivia. And now, two guys who just want to calculate till the break of dawn, it's Joe and O-J-J-J-J-G.
There we go, lying right off the open again. We're actually today at the Aloft Hotel, which sounds like Echo Central to me right now as we're talking. But we're in Houston, Texas, getting ready to bring the Stacking Benjamins Stacked Book Tour to another set of friends. We had a great first couple nights. Maybe we'll talk about that soon, about the early impressions that we had of our tour. But for now, we got a great show. We're going to talk about, this idea that, we're feeling tired a lot. And I don't know about you, but I get frustrated when I'm in the middle of my work day. It's the afternoon and I'm getting nothing done. My net worth isn't growing because of the fact that I can't pay attention because I just want to take a nappy nap.
I was going to say, it sounds like right now.
It sounds like exactly right now, because as we record this in about an hour, we're actually headed over, but we're in the middle of the afternoon recording this. We got Doug here, we got OG here, but we've got Dr. Amy Shah talking about, I'm so effing tired, what to do about it. It is so important that you get your health in order, because what good is money if you don't have good health? But we've got a great headline guest as well today, Dr. Brooke Struck. But first, we're running a small business, as you may know, like I do. It is super fun, but it can also be very tough. And when it's time to get a loan, it can feel impossible to find the lender that you actually trust. Big banks say no. The internet, well, that's full of sketchy offers with sky-high rates and fine print you can barely read. Whether you need help covering payroll, managing cash flow, or investing in growth, you deserve better. And that's why I recommend the small business marketplace Fundera, which is powered by NerdWallet. It's a free, easy-to-use platform. It lets you compare real financing offers from trusted lenders, and it's all in one place. And what I like is that you don't need perfect credit to get started. There's no spam. There's no bait and switch. Just personalized options that fit your business needs. Nothing I like better than a place that treats me the way that they would want to be treated. Using Fundera is a super way to quickly compare options and make your best funding move the way any great business owner would. Here's the best part, though. For a limited time, when you visit nerdwallet.com/SB and fill out the no obligation form, you're going to get VIP treatment and talk with a real person who knows all the ins and outs of small business lending. And you can tell them specifically what you're looking for. They can tell you specifically which options you should probably consider most. Don't risk your business on unreliable lenders. Go to nerdwallet.com/SB to learn more and find the funding you deserve. Fundera Inc., NMLS ID number 1240038. Well, there's nothing that relieves stress more when you have had a long day, you are completely fried, and you're thinking to yourself, maybe I'll just go out to dinner. But then you think about all those calories, all that money out of your wallet, and then you realize that you can eat healthy because you found Factor. Factor is ready in 2 minutes. Factor shops, preps, cooks, and delivers straight to your door, so you have more time for everything you love this spring, and you don't have to worry about eating healthy and going outside your budget because you've got the food sitting there in the fridge that you had pre-planned. What is Factor? Well, Factor has meals built around your goals, whether that's weight loss, overall nutrition, more protein, or GLP-1 support for strength and workout recovery. Check out Factor's Muscle Pro collection. Every meal's crafted with functional ingredients, lean proteins, colorful veggies, whole foods, and healthy fats. Factor bans 175 plus ingredients. No artificial colors or sweeteners, no high fructose corn syrup, no refined seed oils, just nutrient-dense foods. It's fresh, never frozen, over 100 rotating weekly meals, including globally inspired flavors like Mediterranean and Asian, so there's always something new to look forward to. I use Factor. I think you're going to love it too. Head to factormeals.com/SB50off, stackers, and use code SB50off, and you're going to get 50% off and free daily greens per box with new subscriptions only while supplies last until 9/27/2026. It's Doctor Day here on the show. We got Dr. Brooke Struck and Dr. Amy Shah.
Dr. OG.
Dr. OG. Doctor and some facts. Let's
Doctor and some facts.
Shh, they don't know that yet.
Let's dive in.
Hello, darlings. And now it's time for your favorite part of the show, our Stacking Benjamin's headlines.
Well, I'm super excited about today's headline because we actually have two guests today. And I had this great conversation with this gentleman early on via email back and forth. And he talked about how millennials are with their money and what they look for versus what advisors are giving millennials when it comes to their money. So let's just listen into the interview. And on my dad's shortwave radio, it's my new friend, Dr. Brooke Struck from the Decision Lab. How are you, man?
Doing well. How are you today, Joe?
Well, good. Now that I get to talk to you, man, because we've been hooking this up for a while. And I have to say, your job is the type of job that I would totally want to do. Because you find out some of the most interesting things about people and groups of people and behaviors. Tell me actually about the Decision Lab and really your role there to begin our conversation.
Yeah, for sure. So the Decision Lab is a behavioral science group based in Montreal, and we do research and consulting projects. And the work that I've been working on recently is about the values and expectations of millennials, specifically to do with their finances. You know, what we've been finding is that what millennials are looking for out of their money is really different from what the kind of typical picture of, you know, someone seeking a financial planner or a money manager or this kind of thing is looking for. So that's been really interesting to dive into that and to understand the kind of cognitive effects of erratic income and lots of stuff that we'll unpack in a moment. And also thinking about the history of that. Like, how is it that we came to have this idea formed around this like boomer who's going to see a financial planner and they want to talk about their retirement and they want to talk about their estate planning and this kind of thing. Like, how did we get to assume that that's just the normal kind of conversation that someone has with a money manager?
That's so interesting. Let's dive into that because you said there's clearly this disconnect between financial professionals and millennials. Where's the heart of that at? Where do you think the guts of that disconnect lies?
I think it has to do with mostly erratic income. The way that we think about managing money, the way that we think about budgeting, this kind of thing, most of that is predicated on the idea that there's not a lot of fluctuation in your income from one month to the next. But what we're seeing with the gig economy and with shorter term contracts and this kind of thing is that there's just much less financial predictability for millennials and those more engaged in the gig economy than there had been for previous generations. And that opens up all kinds of new challenges that really financial planners and even financial educators didn't really have on their radar before.
Yeah, I remember even, and I haven't been a financial planner in a long time, but when I was a financial planner and I would work with, here and there, I'd have a commission salesperson, right? And their natural tendency was to live on red beans and rice or ramen or something for a little bit. Then they get the big, huge paycheck. They'd blow it all on a bunch of expensive stuff because they didn't know when they were going to have money again. And then they go back to ramen noodles again. So it was this boom bust lifestyle. We would actually set things up. We'd change it so that they put money aside and then pretended they had a stream of income so they could live the same.
Yeah.
But it sounds like still not a bunch of financial planners addressing those issues or financial professionals addressing that issue.
Yeah, so that's actually an excellent illustration. This idea of like boom bust and like kind of the baseline of that is like red beans, rice, and ramen. The challenge for a lot of millennials is that the baseline that they're living at is not kind of the lowest valley that their money sees or that their revenue sees on a month-to-month basis. So what you see then is like sometimes in those really deep valleys, you need to make ends meet somehow. And often what they're reaching for is not kind of these assets that they've put aside to fill in those valleys. It's debt, right? And so we end up using debt as a way to kind of provide that elasticity we need just to kind of eke it out and get to the next peak.
If that means that an emergency fund for a lot of millennials with income instability, the emergency fund's even more important.
Yeah, that's right. So we talk about this in the research, and one of the concepts that I try to unpack there is the difference between an emergency fund or a rainy day fund, which we usually think about as like relatively large as a piece of capital, and also something that you hope to never really have to touch. Maybe you say like, I'm putting aside my rainy day fund for a new roof. I know that sometime in the next 20 years, I'm going to have to replace my roof, but I'm really hoping that I can just push it back and just kind of like eke it out to avoid that as much as possible. Versus a buffer fund, which is something that's smaller, but that we anticipate tapping into more often. It's like, I know that it's kind of more normalized that, every 3-4 months, I might have to tap into that buffer fund. That's what you were talking about before, is taking some of that peak and like setting it aside so that you use that to fill the valleys. This idea of a buffer fund, that like valleys are a very normal thing. It's not about these financial shocks that kind of occur out of the blue and are really abnormal. It's that these valleys happen relatively frequently. We don't know whether it's going to be this month or next month, but we're pretty sure that we're going to have a few in the next year or two. And so that money is there, it's smaller volume. There's less kind of like behavioral adversity or resistance to tapping into that because you just know that that's what it's there for.
Yeah, you don't feel guilty like you would with the tapping your emergency fund. I mean, there's a level of guilt that I always have when I go into my emergency fund. I don't want to do it. And yet that's what it's there for, but I feel totally guilty.
Yeah. So it's kind of like the special bottle of wine, right? So your sibling or your spouse or someone you love very much gives you this really special gift, and you set it aside on the shelf and you say like, I can only open that on a special occasion. And all of these occasions come up and you look at that bottle and you say like, oh, this one isn't special enough. Like it's got to stay there, Such a
great analogy. And I've had this discussion so many times in the past year. There's a guy I met traveling just pre-COVID, a guy named Tony that I met in Germany. And he was talking about special bottles of wine and how there's no gift he'd rather have than opening a special bottle of wine on a regular occasion because it makes it special. So flipping that around to make it special is a whole different, mind bend, I think, that we all have to go through. I want to ask you, though, you also talk about confidence. Obviously, this income instability may create less confidence. Talk to me about millennials and confidence.
Yeah, so confidence is one of the major things that millennials are seeking from their financial professionals. They feel like their money rules their lives rather than their life being kind of empowered by this tool, which is their money. They don't like that. They really want to feel that like they are on top of their money and that they've got their poop in a group, so to speak. So the challenge with confidence really springs from this uncertainty of like, I want to feel that I've got that I've got things together, but like, I don't know what's going to happen next month. I don't know what's going to happen the next month after that. Like, it might be one of these really deep valleys. And I mean, maybe I can kind of wring out a few more drops from my credit to fill that void, but I'm just digging myself deeper. And like, how am I ever going to build the kind of long-term stability that everybody around me tells me that I should have and kind of berates me for not already having? Like, I'm supposed to be an adult by now. Why is this not sorted out? That weight of expectations combined with uncertainty really just shatters confidence for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about the most educated generation, right? More educated than any generation before them, but also the highest level of debt, student loan debt specifically, capped with these housing prices, which are not housing prices that, generations before them had. So that seems like it'd be a perfect storm creating less confidence.
Yeah, that's right. And so you end up in these interesting situations where, for instance, like a financial planner or an advisor or, an investment manager might anticipate like, okay, you've got this millennial, they're in their, let's say, like early 30s. They've got a long way to go before retirement. But all the signals I'm getting from this client are low risk, low risk, low risk. Why is that happening? They've got this massive time horizon in front of them. And the challenge there is that you can only capitalize on that long time horizon if you have the luxury of leaving the money there. If you have to be prepared for the possibility that in 2 months you might have to take some of it out to fill this gap in your, in your revenue, then you don't have the luxury of benefiting from that long time horizon, which allows you to take on more risk, which allows you the better returns that come from that higher risk.
I love this discussion, Brooke, because I get pushback from, people that are fairly analytical about the fact that they don't get a return on investment in that either that buffer fund or on the emergency fund. Banks aren't paying anything right now. And because of that, why have that there? And yet you're saying the ROI, one of the ROIs among many that I believe are in that confidence factor in these other investments that you can leave them alone if you have this ball of money sitting there.
Yeah, that's right. So if you take your total portfolio, slice off, say, 10 percentage points and say that's to even out all the peaks and valleys. And that allows you to take the rest of the 90% and not put it in GICs, but actually invest it in equities. That's a massive ROI.
Yeah, that is absolutely fantastic. I want to ask you about this. When you were doing this research, there's got to be something that surprised you, right? Something that is as you're talking to people that you didn't expect. I would imagine a big piece of this work that you did, you expected. What didn't you expect that you came across?
Yeah, one of the things that really stood out to me is the role of human financial professionals for millennials. My anticipation was like, millennials are all in on fintech. They want everything digitally delivered. It is true. Millennials really love fintech and digital delivery is like really high priority for them. But there's still a very clear place for the human financial planner. And that's specifically around someone who's looking at the overall view. There are so many great digital products out there, but they're siloed. You've got a digital product that helps you to do X. You've got another product that helps you to do Y, another product that helps you to do Z. How do those things fit together into one coherent picture of your finances? Really, really hard to find any digital service that's offering something like that. That's an area where millennials really are looking for a human touch. Now, they want that human touch to be completely seamlessly integrated with fintech tools. Like, if a millennial goes and sits down with a financial planner who doesn't understand the fintech tools that millennial is using,
you're lost.
That's really not good. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That's not the service that they're looking for. But someone who understands that like hybrid digital human environment, that's a massive value add for millennials. that stood out to me because all of the signals that we had been hearing before we really dived so deep into this research were that, there's just no space left for human professionals. They're kind of this dying breed. And, when the next generations, right, when the boomers and when the Gen Xers stop soliciting their services, like there's just going to be no room left for them to operate in. Not true.
Even as you've talked, it seems to me, though, the role of a financial advisor is far more building that confidence and about behavioral stuff than it is about asset management or insurance planning, the kind of product-based stuff that people have done in the past.
Yeah, and that's a big challenge, right? Is that if human planners are going to be able to occupy that space, there's a type of training that they need that they don't currently receive as kind of just like the baseline preparation to go into that profession. And that's really around things like helping clients to understand the challenges that they're facing, helping them to crystallize their goals. Like if I sat down with a financial planner right now and they said, like, tell me your retirement plan. Like, what do you hope to do in retirement? The answer is, I'm a young guy. I haven't thought about it that much. I don't have a clue. So having a professional who can help me to like walk through that decision-making process and give me some ideas and push me and challenge me to help me to flesh out that picture, to then build the plan that'll help to build towards that, massively valuable service. Similarly, once the plan is built and all of the strategies are articulated, I need to change my behavior in order to implement those strategies, to actually say, okay, I'm going to cut down on this type of thing that I've been going out to restaurants too much. I need to cut down on my restaurant budget. How am I going to do that? That kind of behavior change, really, really hard to do. And that's a space, again, where human planners can offer really good service, but they have to be prepared for it.
There's so many lessons here. I'm also thinking, and I'm sure people listening are too, that it's probably more important to find multiple streams of income because of income uncertainty, probably more important to have good diversification because of the worries of if one thing goes wrong. Like there's just so many lessons packed into this. I wish there was a place where people could go and read about this type of stuff. Where do people find more about your work and about the Decision Lab?
You can check out thedecisionlab.com. We've got a whole section there on financial insights, so you can find this report and lots of other stuff that we've done. But yeah, this point that you raised specifically about diversifying your income streams and diversifying your investments, like you can end up in this really brittle situation where all of your income and your investments and these kinds of things, they're all subject to the same risk.
Yeah.
The idea that like you would buy shares in the company that you work for, if your company goes belly up, you've lost both your job and your investments. Like that's just not a very diversified strategy. That's kind of an old-fashioned type of model, but the same thing is true today in different ways. So thinking about like, what are those bigger categories of risk that can actually cascade over lots of different things in my portfolio?
Yeah, such an interesting discussion. Dr. Brookstruck, thanks for hanging out with us a few minutes and talking about millennials investing, saving, and making money.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
And again, OG, a place that some advisors missing the mark is in this idea that it all works together. Thanks to Dr. Brookstruck for being there. But it does all work together, right? I mean, if you make a move over here with your emergency fund or with your debt payoff or whatever it is, it's going to affect other parts of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what you do with your cash flow or what you do with your taxes affect how much money you can save for retirement or how fast you can pay down your house or what your cash flow is because you got too big of a house. So all of those things are interrelated. You can't move one, lever without having a couple of other dominoes fall along the way. And from a planning standpoint, I don't think our job is to tell you what to do. It's to tell you what the impact of your decision is going to be or what it looks like. So if you say, hey, I want to stretch on this house purchase because the market's crazy and the purchase is going, the prices are going up.
I got to do 40,000 after.
Yeah. Or well, maybe not 40,000 over, but more like our budget was 300 and, we were looking and we got to do 350 to get what we want these days or whatever the case may be. I wanted to put 20% down, but I can only put 15. How does that affect all of the other things? Because it's not just, I have less, down payment. I have less equity. I have less margin of safety. I have more money out of pocket. So I have a lower cash reserve after closing. I have a higher payment. So I can only save X instead of Y. So all of those things matter from a comprehensive standpoint for sure.
This is why we've been talking about this as we've started going around the country so much. I think, I've been to 2 cities so far. We've had this discussion twice. I think we're going to have it in every city that we go to.
Right.
That setting your goals up together in relation to each other on this timeline, showing your goals, putting your goals up against each other and asking, what does the whole package cost? So much better than the way we usually look at them. We're like, oh, what do I need to do for retirement? To your point, what you do for retirement is going to affect what you can do for juniors college.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Coming up next, we talked about holistic financial planning and what not just millennials, but really all of us, I think, want from our money. Let's get you there by making sure that you're actually awake and able to concentrate. Dr. Amy Shah has not only more degrees than I can count, she has them from respected places like this school in the Northeast that begins with an H.
Oh. Hemper-Hillen Snotter?
Yes.
Oh.
Academy.
College.
Yes.
College.
Of the fine arts.
Yeah, either that or Harvard, one of the two. But one of those two. I always get them confused.
I totally Southwest
get them
Bahama
confused.
State.
That's right.
But
they're trying. Yes.
They get there.
It doesn't count unless it has 2 directions in it. Really. Got to have 2 directions in your school.
Specific.
To be there at the top. And that's not a knock on Southwest Bahama State because there's some thinking going on there. But Dr. Amy Shah is somebody who for a long time worried about why am I so tired, and her own life was spinning out of control. She's going to tell us that story today because I think that's a lot of us. Dr. Amy Shah up next. But Doug, you're getting us there with, I think you might have a little trivia for us today, my friend.
Show do. Hey there, stackers. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. How's your budgeting life going? Hope you're taking the time to spread those statements out on the table. Make it special. Pour yourself a glass of Philippe Fourreau Reserve Vouvray Brun, which you got on sale, of course, using the money you set aside in your me time alcohol subcategory. And if it's me, I like to drop down lists like it's hot, and then just like insert a column, and I'm working those spreadsheets all evening long. If you're not getting fiscal at least once a week, you are missing out. What's the software that's been helping me some since I was just a kid peeking at his dad's checkbook register? Well, you know it. It's Excel. But that wasn't the original name, was it? So my question is, what was the original name for Excel? I'll be back right after I pivot these tables, if you know what I mean.
In business, there is no room for guesswork. Every shipment matters. Every deadline counts. And when you're trying to keep operations running smoothly, the last thing you need is uncertainty. That's why reliability is at the core of USPS Ground Advantage. From the moment your package is first scanned in, it moves through a secure nationwide network, aiding in a timely and accurate delivery. You get near real-time tracking so you can keep up with your shipments. And with affordable upfront pricing, there are no hidden fees or surprise surcharges to throw off your cost sheets. It all adds up to predictable deliveries you can depend on, because knowing your logistics are handled lets you focus on everything else, your customers, your team, and the future you're building. Visit USPS.com/Ground Advantage to start shipping with confidence. USPS Ground Advantage. We mean business. I had a breakfast mentoring meeting yesterday with a young woman who was just amazing. She is graduating from college with a degree in wealth management, and she reached out hoping for some pointers. And listen, if somebody's in Texarkana and wants to go into this beautiful field of personal finance and helping people get their money together, that is incredible. But even more incredible is how she reached out, how she was trying to network. And I was having a discussion that finding the right person and avoiding the wrong person for a role, that's what can make or break an organization. And we just don't see that many qualified people. So how do you find them? Well, Indeed sponsored jobs is a boost whenever you need to find quality talent. If you're hiring, Indeed is all you need. You can stop struggling to get your job post even seen on other sites. You'll match with quality candidates with Indeed's sponsored jobs. Get matched with and hire quality candidates who can drive the results you need. Reach candidates who meet your specific criteria like skills, certifications, or location. It drives me crazy when I'm matched with all kinds of people who aren't a fit. I don't have that kind of time. People are finding quality hires on Indeed right now. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. Sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed are 95% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all the boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored job. And here's what's cool, Stackers. You're going to get $75 in sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support Stacking Benjamins by saying you heard about Indeed right here at Stacking Benjamins. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed.
Hey there, Stackers. I'm Cell Range Rover and Column Merger, Joe's mom's neighbor Doug. Excel was the first application to use a toolbar. It has more than 450 built-in functions, and unlike with your spending, you can undo the last 100 actions. The father of Excel was Charles Simonyi, and what was the original name for Excel back in 1982? Master Plan. And now, to help you with the master plan of your life, Dr. Amy Shah.
And on my dad's shortwave radio, it's my new friend, Dr. Amy Shah. Amy, how are you?
So great to be here. Thanks for having me.
And by the way, Stackers, before we get into this, Amy makes this very apparent in her work. Do not change anything until you talk to your doctor. I think we should say that right away. But let's talk about you as a physician working very hard. You're in your early 30s, and your book begins with you're kind of flying down the road. And tell me what happened there.
Joe, a lot of us can relate, when we are trying to be good at so many things, we're pushing 100%, trying to be everywhere, trying to do everything. And this is what, burnout and fatigue really stems from, is really trying to do so many things without having any kind of rest or recharge. And so that was me. I thought sleeping, getting sunlight, getting nature, all the things that I promote now were for lazy people, for people who weren't as motivated as I wanted to be. And I was starting this new practice. And so I wanted to do everything. So my partners at my medical practice, when I just became a partner, said, hey, can we do an impromptu meeting today? And it was going to be at 5:00. And I wanted to say no because I had to pick up my kids at 5:00. And I was thinking about how like the lady at the center would look. She was this old lady who didn't really have text messaging or anything. And I would just imagined coming late and the center would be closed. But I didn't have that guts to say no because I wanted to perform for my partners or like make it seem like I was a hard worker. And so I stayed, and during the meeting, I couldn't even process anything. I'm sure you know how that feeling, your mind is just racing all the time. And that's how my mind worked at that point. My mind was constantly racing. I couldn't concentrate. So I ran out of there. It was like 5:30 and I was already so late, and I sprinted to the car and I drove as fast as I could to the center, which was very close. And as I was turning into the center, the street where the center was, I got into a huge car accident. A car accident where my car was spinning and spinning and spinning. And it was an intersection. And all I remember is that the airbags, one by one, even the back ones, the side ones, places I didn't even know there were airbags, were all kind of exploding in my face. And the last thing I remember is a big smash. Luckily, there was a divider in this cross traffic light, and I hit the divider. My whole car was completely totaled. So I was hit by the car, hit by the divider. All the glass was crushed. And literally all I could think about was, I need to get out of this car so I can go get the kids from the center so that lady won't judge me as a bad mom. And people were looking at me like, what is wrong with this lady? She's like running out of this huge accident. And for the next week, I thought about how ridiculous my life had become and how horrible I felt. And I couldn't go back to work and my car was totaled. I was injured. And I had time to kind of say, what is it that I'm doing that's wrong? And why do I feel this way? Why is my mind always racing? Why do I feel tired all the time? Why is my sleep so disturbed? And that's the beginning of my personal journey.
Yeah, because let's be clear, you say in your book, this accident was 100% your fault. Like you knew it right away as it was happening. You're like, I just caused this accident because I'm so distracted and I have so many things swirling around in my mind that I caused it. I could have, something bad could happen to somebody. Luckily, everybody was okay.
Yeah, luckily the biggest damage was to me and my car. But I just felt like, that feeling of being rushed all the time was a feeling that I didn't enjoy because it makes you anxious and it makes you make decisions that you wouldn't otherwise make. And that's why I said it was, when looking back at it, I'm like, I lived in this perpetual state of adrenaline and it was driving me to make bad decisions.
The women that you work with, do they sometimes attribute this to, because as I'm listening to you, I think, man, that's me so often. Do they attribute that to ADD? Do we misattribute this sometimes as, hey, this is just my ADD flaring up all over the place?
Absolutely. I mean, think about the prescriptions for ADD medications, for anxiety, for depression. A lot of the things that I was feeling, people wanted to medicate because instead of looking at what it is that you can change about your life, like I don't say that there's anything wrong with medication. In fact, I encourage it. If you're suffering from a mental health issue, you should get medication, right? But on the other hand, I think we leave a lot on the table. When I learned about the research and the science behind burnout and fatigue and our bodies, I was thinking, why do I not know this? Why do people not know this as tools that they can do themselves before or while they're searching for solutions from medications, right?
Yeah. Your book is written primarily for women. You say that women suffer from extreme anxiety 15% of the time, I believe, versus 10% for men. And yet you say there's not much really written for women before your book where it really focuses on what's going. And don't get me wrong, there's a ton in here for me, for guys too. But why isn't there more written about women and fatigue?
So there was this huge research bias for many, many years because women were not included in medical studies. They weren't included because of the risk of damaging any kind of fetus or pregnancy or, that kind of like in a protective way. However, what happened is that they got excluded. We got excluded from almost every pharmaceutical study, from every intervention. And so much of the data until the 80s was only based on a very small population of men. That's one reason why we don't have enough information. We just think, well, okay, if a medication passes a trial and it was at 80 milligrams for the average American male, then let's just do 60 for females. And that's how they made decisions. And so now we're understanding, hey, maybe there's a little bit more nuance to this than we understand. And maybe there's hormonal wiring, which we know is very different for women and men. And maybe there are things that we can learn from studying women that we didn't know before that we could apply to men too. So it's really based in scientific error for the last 100 years.
And let's start with hormones, because you write, hormones are true rock stars when it comes to your body and your health, because they play a role in, well, pretty much everything and are responsible for our ability to operate day in and day out. So for those of us that are more money nerds than health experts, Amy, dive into hormones for a minute and the part that hormones play in getting things done for us.
Yeah. People, if you're wanting to make money or save money or build ideas to create money options for yourself, you really do need to pay attention to hormones. I mean, these guys drive our decision-making power, our ability to think clearly, our ability to interact with people in the world. I mean, this is all the stuff that you need to have in place if you're going to grow and thrive in your business, right? So what I find all the time is as soon as you start to improve your health, your gut health, your hormone health, your brain health, all of a sudden you start to make better decisions in your life in general. So there's a big brain body connection. So the connection that I talk about in my book is called the energy trifecta. So for energy, for focus, and for good work, you really need to get this trifecta balance. So one side is hormones, one side is gut health, and one side is the immune system. And in the middle is the brain, because the brain is communicating with all these places. These are not separate entities that you have to treat your hormones with these medications and then treat your gut with these medications and supplements. It's literally one system. And when you can find things that work on that system, you will feel better, you will look better, you will do better work. So that's the basis. And hormones, in the morning, we're supposed to have a jolt of cortisol that wakes us up. And in the evening, we're supposed to have really low cortisol to help us fall asleep. When we live in this modern environment, we sometimes don't get sunlight. We're getting bad sleep. That cortisol is kind of trying to rise, but you wake up groggy, you don't have energy, because that cortisol was supposed to be what wakes up the brain and the rest of the body. So hormones work like that, and you feel, tired and jet lagged or whatever, really dragging. And then the cortisol, when it's off balance in the evening, starts to rise because, Joe, you get a bad email, you get a phone call, you've been drinking so much caffeine. As the day progresses, you get more and more stress, and your cortisol is way high, and your body is sensing stress. And this is a sign that you shouldn't go to sleep. Our brain says, oh, cortisol is really high, we can't go to sleep right now. So what we have is our hormones driving our attention, our energy levels. And honestly, if you're trying to do your best work, you're going to go on a book tour, you're going to be doing all these things. We want to have high energy in the morning, and then we want to be able to wind down when it's time for bed. This is impeding our progress. So hormones, I just give you one example of the hundreds of how hormones rule our body.
Yeah. And as I'm listening to you talk, you talk a bit in your book, you dive into really that hormones have a specific way they work, but they get out of whack permanently because of some things that we do. Can you talk about some of those things that we do? I mean, some of them, it sounds like opening my email at night might be a little bit of a problem that causes me to sleep less, that makes the cortisol high. But there's got to be even bigger things and more bedrock things that we do that put us out of whack.
Absolutely. One of the big things that I found is that we don't realize, because biology, doctors, nobody is really telling us this, but the 2017 Nobel Prize in Medicine went to the researchers on circadian rhythms and how they run our body. So circadian rhythms are the day and night, sun and dark cycles. Okay. They run 80% of our genes. So our brain knows that when it sees light in the morning, and it knows the difference between morning light and evening light and afternoon light from the wavelengths, that it's time to turn on the complex brain functions, turn on digestion, turn on the hormonal processes. And when it sees darkness, it knows to go into repair and renewal mode, which is just as important. We want to repair and renew. And so that's why I believe in intermittent fasting, because really, if you think about the way our bodies are wired, we are not meant to be eating big, huge meals late at night, because thousands of years ago, the way our body is created, you wouldn't be eating, after dark. There was no microwaves. There was no Uber Eats. There was no late night drive-thrus. So everybody was pretty much done with
Wait a minute. Are you trying to say there was no fourth meal back in the day?
There was no late night.
There was no.
Yeah. And my kids really they're just so shocked, because I have 2 kids and I do this whole concept. I follow this circadian rhythm concept. And I say, after dinner, we're basically going to turn the lights off in the kitchen and we're done. And it's so shocking to them, because all of their friends or everything they've seen, they feel like nighttime should be, TV and snacks. But I really realized that was a cultural creation that happened in the last 20 years. And our bodies are not built to do that. So long story short, following the day and night rhythms throughout your day and stepping outside of this cultural box that we have created that makes us fat, sick, and tired is important. Knowing that, hey, 2017, they realized that there are rays of light that your body actually needs to function during the day, and you need to see darkness at night in order to fall asleep and have your renewal and repair functions turned on. And who doesn't want the renewal and repair functions turned on, especially as we get older? So getting closer in tune with that is one of the easiest cornerstones that you can do. So things, you don't have to, become a hunter-gatherer and like live in the woods, but you can do something simple like get a few minutes of sunlight in the morning, not through, a window, but actually open the window or step outside. I know, some of these places right now are so cold, but really just a couple minutes of direct light is all you need. It could be even on your walk from the parking lot to your office or something like that. And something simple and so impactful. And then at night, I don't believe that most people are at the level that they can leave their phone away from them for hours at a time in the evening, every evening. But it's definitely an exercise in how many minutes can you do? Can you do 15, 20, 30 minutes before bed? Turn off your phone. And I've gotten to the point where I'm at like an hour where basically I put my phone on the charger and then I start my nighttime routine. And it ends up being sometimes it's 30 minutes, sometimes it's an hour. But really, other than that, there's no blue lights. There's, I change the lighting in my bedroom. We don't look at TV. Everything has a yellow filter to it if I'm looking at the computer or phone. And then really building kind of a wind down routine to follow these circadian rhythms. And then I stop eating at least for 13 hours overnight because, just like I said, our genetics and our circadian rhythms are built on the fact that we need time for GI rest as well as brain rest. So sleep is really important. Not eating super late at night is really important. And having adequate light during the day is really important.
You talk about, as the second piece of your triad, gut health, you mentioned and talked about maybe no fourth meal, but are there some foods that are really horrible for gut health that we should be actively avoiding?
Absolutely. Gut health is the crux of that. If I had to pick, which part of this trifecta is utmost important, it's that gut brain. Everything is kind of going through that gut filter. So our gut bacteria, the trillions of little critters that live in our gut, they talk. It's like a walkie-talkie with the brain, and they're telling the brain what's going on. And so if you want to improve your brain health and your decision-making, your feelings of energy, like fixing your gut health is paramount. And these gut bacteria, they die of starvation. I know that sounds crazy. It sounds like science fiction, but when we look at hunter-gatherer societies or older, even mummified GI tracts, they have found that over the last 1,000 years, we have lost so much of our gut bacteria and the diversity. And because we live in a modern world and we're eating things that are starving, and I'll tell you what they like to eat and why they're starving. Basically, gut bacteria, their favorite food, the food that they thrive on, is fiber. Prebiotic fiber is a more scientific way to describe what they eat. Studies show that at least 97% of Americans do not get enough of that fiber on a daily basis. So literally not only are they're starving, they're dying off. And what you end up having is you have GI issues, you have brain issues, hormonal and immune issues.
Wow. When you say they're starving, we're killing our gut then by not eating the right food, which then I would imagine then sends off some of the hormonal imbalances that you see the second that happens.
And then you wonder why our immune system has been the focus of the last 2 years and why people are getting sick at rates that we never imagined is because our immune system is a part of this trifecta. And of course, if the gut bacteria is starving, it can't support the immune system. And so basically we are more susceptible to viruses, bacteria, and other threats.
I'm glad you talked about the immune system. Let's dive into that just a little bit longer with the time that we have. You say that the immune system works like soldiers that go out and they take care of trouble in your body. but sometimes they don't retreat. They don't come back like they should. Why is that?
Chronic inflammation is probably one of the worst problems and leads to so much disease in our bodies. Now, think about it this way. We referenced Taco Bell before. Yeah. You're eating something that the body does not recognize as food.
I think a lot of humans, Amy, don't recognize it as food.
Yeah.
Maybe that ruins my Taco Bell sponsorship opportunity. But
I know. Well, maybe they'll come out with something that's gut friendly and then you can sponsor it. So if you eat, say, a Dorito, right? Let's pick on Doritos. The gut bacteria says to your immune system, hey guys, I need help recognizing this. I don't understand what this is. Is it a foreign threat? Is it, something food? Can we get nutrients from it? So it sends out signals to the immune system, and the immune system sends guys that kind of identify what it is and whatever. And that's what inflammation is. And that's why our guts are always inflamed when we're eating really bad processed food, because you're creating a immune response, which, if you're just eating once in a while, it goes away. And most of us are eating something processed once in a while. But if you continue to eat those foods and you are not getting that hormonal signal, so that hormone side is imbalanced, and then now the gut side is imbalanced, and now the immune system is imbalanced because it's like going out for all these calls that it's getting for the foods that you're eating. It is basically creating the perfect storm of being, like I said, fat, sick, and tired. You feel horrible. Your gut health is bad. You're getting sick and you're extremely tired. And then we wonder why, oh, that's so weird. We're just doing the normal things everybody's doing. But the normal things that everyone's doing is actually leading us down this path.
Making everybody fat, sick, and tired. Not only do you have, in the intro to your segment, of course, we talked about your background and talked about all the amazing work that you've done in this area, Amy, but you also became your own guinea pig. You talked about how over a much shorter time, I think, than you expected, it sounded like, you were on a trip to Machu Picchu, and of course, you're in this high altitude there, and you said everybody else was getting gassed, for lack of a better word, and you realized just how much more energy you had, even with kids at home, with the busy days that you have, like things had changed naturally for you.
It was so motivating because my friends around me were asking me, what are you doing differently that's giving you all this endless energy? And I think that made me realize, hey, my gift to the world is to show people the science behind it and what works and what worked for me, so that I can share with everyone. I shared with everyone that day. And I continue to hope that we can learn. It's not my science. I'm interpreting the science for people, so that they can make these changes in their life and be able to do your best work, feel good, live a longevity optimized is how I think about it. I'm not interested in living a long life if it means that I can't do what I want to do. I want to be active. I want to be able to work. I want to be able to think clearly into my older years. And that requires a different life than what we have been taught.
The book is called I'm So Effing Tired, a proven plan to beat burnout, boost your energy, and reclaim your life. I assume it's available everywhere.
It is.
Well, thank you so much for helping us get healthier so that we have, help us, not just have a higher net worth, but really have some passion about what we're doing and live a stronger life. I really appreciate it. Dr. Amy Shah, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Joe.
Hi, I'm David Hirsch, and when I'm not hosting the Dad to Dad podcast for the Special Fathers Network, which is a dad to dad mentoring program for fathers raising kids with special needs, I'm stacking Benjamins.
Got to be healthy, man. Got to be healthy. It's funny how many people spend hours and hours listening to the show. I mean, we've got some real money nerds that listen to the show. Mm-hmm. We'll spend hours and hours on their personal finance stuff, but don't know anything about keeping the body safe.
Yeah. It's an interest of mine. As I was talking a couple of weeks ago about living to be 140, apparently that fell flat to some people because allegedly it's not, you can't do that, but
allegedly the science doesn't support it.
Allegedly, just no one else has.
Just because the science doesn't support it doesn't mean I can't say it.
But what if I wanna, Mom, I want it, But this other person that I've been following recently. His name is Peter Attia, and he has a great podcast and website and all this other sort of stuff. But the thing that really resonated with me about that was you may not increase your lifespan, but you need to increase your health span. So instead of having that slow decline from 70 to 90, where you're just kind of miserable and blah, be really healthy all the way to like 89 and a half, and then kick the bucket, you know? And a lot of that stuff is just making smart decisions, just like you try to make smart decisions with your money. Just make smart decisions with your
and half of it, like,
health as well.
you know, and I love the way Amy was able to put together these stories. A lot of it is just knowing how the machinery works. Like Cheryl was laughing. We were driving in Maine and had been a blizzard. And so we're driving on these slippery, snowy roads. And I was talking about, you got to be one with the car. And I was joking around, right? But seriously, you got to kind of feel where the car's going when you drive on ice. You got to kind of know what happens next. And so many of us
end up in the ditch and you don't make it to 140.
I don't even trust your driving on dry pavement.
But what's funny is pivot quick, Joe, pivot quick. There's days I don't do that. I will go to Dairy Queen because all I can think about is how good the peanut butter parfait is going to taste. And I feel awful 45 minutes later. Like I feel awful. And if I would think about that, about what the body's really, is the body really built for this huge sugar spike? Well, Dr. Shah just said no. There's a reason why you feel
Eat
miserable
a carrot
afterwards.
instead.
No.
Celery.
I don't think that was the point. Hey, let's throw out the Haven Lifeline and tackle some of life's most important questions. Our friends at Haven Life Insurance Agency, Doug, they put what you value first.
Oh, well, I tell you what, it's still winter, Joe. So what I value first is finding a mile-long blue cruiser that has untouched corduroy, depositing me at a high-speed chairlift that no one's discovered yet, where the local brewery has a hottie handing out free samples. Can they do that for me? Apparently not.
Okay, then.
And
we would have also accepted Raising Cane's chicken fingers.
Oh, those are mighty good.
Yeah.
Those are mighty good, I've just learned.
Yeah, thank God Amy's already left.
I know.
Now that she's gone,
Doug was shame licking the cane sauce. Like crying.
The next morning, when I was having the walk of cane shame afterwards, Josh is like, you know what you do? You take that Texas toast and you just clean out the inside of the cane sauce. I'm like, way ahead of you, bro.
I love how this health stuff is good in theory.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, it's great.
I mean, it's chicken.
Yeah.
Coleslaw has like lettuce and stuff in it.
Yeah, right. Vegetables, you're getting it all. Sure.
Garlic, they tell you to eat that.
Yeah, and it just sounded to me, all I heard was that's cell number, 16D that we just got out of the way. That's why, though, they've created a modern way to buy quality term life insurance. I'm like, where am I? Head to StackyBenjamins.com/HavenLife now to get your free quote. You can pause it right now. You know how important this is. OG was just talking about how important it is to get your health together. Well, also get your life insurance together. Prices are affordable. Policies issued by the parent company, Mass Mutual. And of course, no waiting several weeks for a decision. They can tell you, in most cases, very quickly. Today for the Haven Lifeline, we got this interesting question, OG, in our basement Facebook group. You want to hang out with us? StackingBenjamins.com/basement is the easy way to get there. So it's not ///. Just go there and we'll route you right to a lot of other stackers that hang out and have great money and sometimes non-money, funny conversations. But here's the question. Hey, all, I had a quick question about HSAs that I'm sure y'all will have an answer for. I'll be changing jobs the next couple of weeks, and my new employer has 3 options for medical benefits, one of which is a high deductible health plan with an HSA, no employer contributions, so there will be none. My question is there any reason for not doing the HSA? My main concern is that although we have a large emergency fund and can afford to pay out of pocket for most medical costs, my kids have a lot of allergies that have required trips to the ER in the past and numerous specialty doctor appointments. I wasn't sure if those issues could outweigh the benefit of stacking Benjamins in an HSA. Oh, gee, what do you think about that?
Well, I think that if you are going to have a known outcome, or at least you have a sense of one, you have to do the math and figure out what's going to be better for you. You know, I'll give you a great example. Before the high deductible plans were kind of all the rage, but when my wife was working, we used to have, you know, the 3 different plans you could pick from: the silver, bronze, and gold, or whatever they named them. And each one of those had different deductibles for the year. Well, we picked the one that had the lowest deductible in the years when we knew we were going to use the heck out of it. Like, hey, there's a baby coming. There's a good chance that we're going to use the crap out of this insurance between prenatal care and hospital visits and all that other sort of stuff. So let's do the least out of pocket, even though we're generally healthy people. And so if you have a sense of kind of what your health spend is, I think you have to kind of sort of do the math and say, with a high deductible plan, you're on the hook for a certain dollar amount. $3,000 a year, $5,000.
But that is a known number, though.
Yeah, $7,000 a year. Quantity. Yeah. So if you look and you say, well, geez, in all likelihood, we're maybe going to spend $1,000 a year on health insurance or healthcare. Well, then yeah, the high deductible plan makes sense. But you're on the hook for for all of that first money. Sometimes you get unlucky, and you think, oh, this will be a great year. Last year, we had 2 people in the hospital from COVID. This is not inexpensive to go visit the hospital hacking up along. So,
but you think if that's 1 year out of 7 or 8, though, you're still ahead of the game.
I would think so. I mean, I'm paying the hospital for the next 7 or 8 years, so it'll work out.
Yeah. Works out for them.
Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. So I think when it comes to HSA versus, the high deductible plan versus the, non-high deductible plan, I think you just have to run the calculations and say, if this was a normal year of expenses for us, which one helps us the best, and then pick that one.
I want to pivot just a little bit as well. Speaking of, I'm using the word pivot a lot today, but I want to talk about, there it is. I want to talk about something that Erin in the basement brought up, Stacker Erin. And she talked about she's never had an HSA. She's never had one available. And we talk about HSAs, not us, but people and financial podcasts so often that you can get HSA envy when you don't have it. You feel left out. And she made a great point, which is if you don't have an HSA available, you can still make it. Things are still going to be okay.
Do we think everybody listening understands what makes you eligible for an HSA and what doesn't? Should we go back real quickly and just say, if you're in this situation, you don't, and in this situation, you do?
Dude, flex that knowledge.
I don't know that I have all the knowledge, but generally, if you aren't eligible, it's because you already have access to employer, I'll say subsidized healthcare plans that are really good. So while HSAs, I think, offer you some great investment opportunities and a lot of flexibility, it's generally because you're paying a lot more for your healthcare, I'll say, up front, right?
Yeah.
And so you shouldn't necessarily have HSA envy if you don't have access to it, because it means you're generally in a pretty good situation.
But I think what a lot of people, the reason people do is because we talk about those investment opportunities. Specifically, if you pay out of pocket and you let that money grow forever, this can end up becoming, number one, either your retirement healthcare fund.
Sure.
Or number two, after 65, use it for whatever the hell you want. Mm-hmm. Which means because it's pre-tax in and it's tax-free out, it's better than the Roth and it's better than the 401k. So people go, oh, and then people like Erin go, well, I've never had one.
Yeah. There's no question. All of that are significant upsides. I'm just saying you're not totally screwed, right?
That's right.
If you don't have one, it usually means there's some upside you've got right now today.
Yeah.
It is a great point that you've got much better, more comprehensive healthcare with lower deductibles if you're not using an HSA.
So you're saying my point was amazing.
It was fantastic.
Yes.
So awesome.
Yes. I don't know where it came from. It must have been just following Dr. Amy Shah's logic. It was probably that he had the Raising Cane's like 45 minutes ago, and now it's hitting his system. Yeah. I have a point. It's my time. It's been 10 years. It's about time. All right. Unfortunately, that's going to do it for today. We got to go head for Local Group Brewing, just a few blocks from here. And our friend Sharita Humphrey is going to be there, along with a lot of other of our peeps in Houston.
H-Town.
And if you're listening to this now, you missed it.
Allison Baggerly is going to be there from the Inspire Budget.
Where are you? Where are you today? As this is Wednesday. This is Portland.
I am in Portland, Oregon. Do we want to out with people in Portland tomorrow?
Should we back this up and just do that
tomorrow? No, that's fine. Because we're talking about letting it go. About we got to get out of here because we do got to. I'm looking at the time. Look, we got to get out of here. But I'm in Portland, Oregon today. If you're listening to this and you're anywhere close, come visit us. 6:30 at McMenamin's Ringler Pub. It sounds
definitely one of those three places.
I know it sounds.
Look that up in Google Maps.
Pub.
It totally sounds like Ringling Brothers Pub, but I've heard it's a really cool place because we've gone to some cool places already. In Seattle, we're at Optimism Brewing on Thursday. That'll be tomorrow, and then looking at you Fort Lauderdale. We will be there next week. Fort Lauderdale, Tampa, and Atlanta. And then I get a little break, OG. I actually get to go home for 3 days. So stackingbenjamins.com/stacked. Then we hit the Northeast, we hit the Midwest, and then we get a bunch of other cities as we make our way around the country. But if you're somebody looking for better help, not just to hang out and drink beer with us, you really need better help in your corner so you can think bigger about your financial goals. OG and his team are taking clients. So head to stackingbenjamins.com/OG. That's the link for him and his team, and gets you on the path. All right, that's going to do it. Doug, what should we have learned today?
Well, Joe, I'll tell everybody what they should have learned today. First, even though you may be suspicious of financial advisors' recommendations, remember that they're really there to collaborate with you and help you understand how your decisions help you reach your goals. Second, never underestimate how being well-rested and healthy can have positive impacts on your ability to achieve your dreams. See what I did there? But the big lesson? Budgeting is a natural part of your financial expression. And whether you're alone or with your partner, make sure you communicate your needs, take your time, and explore all your accounts. Thanks and sorry to Dr. Amy Shah. Her book, I'm So Effing Tired, is available anywhere you can curl up and get some sleep. Thanks to Dr. Brooks Struck from the Decision Lab. We'll have a link to his research in our show notes page. This show is the property of SB Podcasts, LLC, copyright 2022, and is created by Joe Saul-Sehy. Our producer is Karen Repine. The show is written by the brilliant Paulette Perhatch, with help from Joe, me, and Doc G from the Earn and Invest podcast. After you listen to our show, check out the 201 Deep Dives, written by our website manager and blog editor, Brooke Miller. You'll find the 411 on all things money at the 201. Just go to stackingbenjamins.com/201. Once we bottle up all this goodness, we ship it to our engineer, the amazing Steve Stewart. Steve helps the rest of our team sound nearly as good as I do right now. Want to chat with friends about the show later? Mom's friend Gertrude is our social media coordinator and the room mother in our Facebook group called The Basement. So, say hello when you see us posting online. Here's a weird fact. Both she and Tina Eichenberg are never in the same room at the same time. To join all the basement fun with other stackers, type stackingbenjamins.com/basement. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we'll see you next time back here at the Stacking Benjamin Show. Not only should you not take advice from these dorks, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial decisions, speak with a real financial advisor.
Welcome to the after show. This is the part of the show that doesn't exist. It was funny. We were talking with a couple stackers last night in Austin as we record this. They've been listening for a while and still didn't know that this exists.
Really?
Which is half the fun of this. It was.
But how did they find out at the event?
Because it was not me. No, somebody talked about it. Yes, somebody brought it up. Yeah.
We better not have paid for their beer.
We've had some great help. I have to say, we didn't say it on the ground, but Jay, who helped us man the books and swag last night.
Jay was great.
But I think a lot of people did not thank him in front of the group, and I want to,
So now he gets airtime?
Absolutely.
That's a great trade, Jay. You did all right.
Yes. And in both cities, Lauren Williams in Dallas was fantastic. Karen McGill was great in Austin. Sharita Humphrey tonight, I'm sure, is going to be fantastic as well. So a lot of cool people, though. You know who was best, though, guys? I think was just
you.
Yeah, it was me. I was freaking pretty. Look
you were awesome.
It was the people that came out, like the questions we got. Like we just got some great questions.
Yeah, they asked difficult questions. I didn't appreciate that. It's softball only, folks. If you come to one of the upcoming shows,
underhand
just
it.
Tee it up for us.
Underhand it.
Doug, why are you so damn good looking?
Yes.
Why?
Do you have to practice
Just
that
underhand
voice
it.
or?
Yeah. Good times. Come out and join us, guys.
Pour yourself a glass of Philippe Fourreau Reserve Vouvray Brut, which, you got on sale, of course.
I think it's Vouvray Bras. Is it Vouvray Bras? Bra? I hear people say it all the time. Hey,
Yo,
bra.
what's up, bra?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. It is.
it's Vouvray
Okay, let me
Bras.
try that again. Okay.